The relations have further worsened between Washington and Beijing as the United States and its allies have yet again launched a rhetorical attack on China. This time, the fierce condemnation has come over what has been termed as China's malicious cyber activity. Remember, this is the first time ever that the NATO has condemned Chinese cyber activity and its hacking operations. The Biden administration has accused China of hacking Microsoft email server software. It has further blamed Beijing for criminal extortion, issuing ransom demands to private firms from government-affiliated hackers costing millions of dollars and threatening national security. In fact, the Microsoft Exchange Service hack, which came to light in January, had affected at least 30,000 U.S. organizations, including local governments. U.S. President Joe Biden has said that the investigation is underway. Listen in.
The Chinese government, not unlike the Russian government, is not doing this themselves, but are protecting those who are doing it, and maybe even accommodating them being able to do it. That may be the difference.
Although the announcement does not come with any sanctions, the United States Department of Justice has stepped up action, and as a part of this effort, 4 Chinese nationals working with the Ministry of State Security have been held. The charges include global computer intrusion campaign targeting intellectual property and confidential business information, including infectious disease research. The indictment alleges 3 defendants were officers in the Henan State Security Department, which is a provincial arm of China's Ministry of State Security. Other U.S. allies, including the European Union, Britain, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, Japan, and the NATO, have joined hands against the cyber threat being posed by Beijing. The allies are currently sharing technical advice on how to confront China. The countries are due to announce details of action against China and reveal 50 tactics, techniques, and procedures used by Chinese state-sponsored cyber actors. The NATO has raised concern over the cyber threats to the security of the alliance having become even more frequent recently. It has claimed that these hacking operations are designed to destabilize and harm the Euro-Atlantic security. The European Union has blamed China for targeting the government and economic institutions of its 27 member states. They have strongly denounced the malicious cyber activities. In a statement, the EU's foreign policy chief, Josep Borrell, has said the hacking was conducted from the territory of China for the purpose of intellectual property theft and espionage. The United Kingdom has also joined like-minded partners to confirm that Chinese state-backed actors were responsible for hacking. It has urged the Chinese government to take responsibility for its actions and respect democratic institutions. This by not conducting or supporting cyber-enabled theft. For more on these developments, our correspondent Susan Teherani joining us on the broadcast from New York. Hi, Susan. How is the latest development significant, if you can give our viewers further context?
Right, so this is the first time, Molly, that NATO has condemned cyber activities on the part of China. It's also significant in a way that the attack was carried out by criminal contract hackers working for the government of the Chinese Communist Party, which is engaged in ransomware and extortion. Now, during a call, Biden Security Administration officials told us last night that the countries, NATO countries, the United States, along with New Zealand, Canada, Japan, and Australia, will be sharing intelligence on cybersecurity and also defense and security, as you mentioned earlier, to come up with solutions, and they'll be announced to the public on how they'll be dealing with this issue moving forward. Some of it, of course, will not be shared. Meanwhile, here in the United States, the NSA and the FBI have urged government agencies and private companies to apply some newly issued recommendations to reduce the threat of cyber infiltration. Also, the EU, the UK, Australia, and those other countries that you mentioned, including Canada, NATO member states, also they've done the same for their citizens and government agencies as well.
Right. Microsoft immediately identified that the attack seemingly came from a relatively unknown Chinese espionage network dubbed Hafnium. Also, when it became public back in March, why has it taken the Biden administration so long to condemn Beijing?
We can go about what the White House has said, and the White House said that it needed time for investigators to gather evidence to make sure that Hafnium was indeed being funded by the Chinese Communist Party and that it was on Chinese state payroll. And when it did reach this conclusion, that's when it decided to go public, albeit that it did have this information back in March, but it wanted to make this announcement publicly now. Also, it wanted to be on the same page with the European Union, NATO allies as well before coming out and making this announcement. It's also important to note that this announcement does come as U.S. President Joe Biden took that trip to Europe earlier this year with G7 and NATO member states really calling for a more confrontational approach against China. And also, we did talk about how sanctions have not been implemented on the part of the United States against China for this particular aspect. However, it does come after some sanctions have been applied by the United States, diplomatic and economic, for human rights abuses and violations in Hong Kong and Xinjiang on the part of the United States against China at this point.
Susan Teherani leaving it there for the moment. Thanks very much for those updates. WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.